皆さんこんにちは。 DG インキュベーションのユーサと申します。よろしくお願いします。始める前にですね、ちょっと皆さんどういうオーディエンスなのかを確認させていただきたいんですけども、How many of you are from startups? How many of you work for startups in Japan? Okay. How many of you are from corporates? How about VCs? Just one? Okay. All right. So I'm gonna set the tone of the stage and then hand it to Dennis. But so today's theme is about global fundraising by Japanese startups. In Startup 5-year plan, Kishida Cabinet has declared the goal to increase the amount of investment in Japan startups by 10 times, which is a great number. But in reality, however, investment in Japanese startups in 2023 decreased by 20% compared to the year previously. So obviously there are something we should do more. There are only three ways we can do. One is to increase the number of startups, or increase the amount of investment by each startup, or somewhere in the middle. There are some statistics about it, and more young generation university students, they want to be startup founders, but we cannot simply increase the number of startups by tenfold organically. So we need to think about how each startup can raise funds in a greater way. And I think the most meaningful way is to expand and diversify the base of investors. Kishida Cabinet is aware of this and taking measure, for example, facilitate angel investing or consider LP investment directly from the individual into VCs. But I feel like there should be more discussion around how Japanese startups can raise funds from foreign VCs and foreign investors. This is especially true for early stage and seed stage startups, like the companies DG Incubation invest. Because by definition, these kind of early stage companies do not have tractions compared to middle to later stage companies, and they have to focus more on the storytelling. And this is why we have Dennis here today. Dennis is the Chief Growth Officer of Hapiness Capital. As a managing partner of our crowd in Israel, he personally raised over $1 billion US for over 100 companies worldwide. He is also a serial entrepreneur himself and a TechCrunch winner. Dennis developed global acclaimed fundraising masterclass, where he has trained thousands of CEOs on fundraising globally, including Harvard, Kellogg, INSEAD, and Cambridge. From this fundraising specialist, I hope we can all learn so much today. So Dennis, let's start. I know you have very stringent and well-developed approach of fundraising. Could you share the methodology with the audience, please?
Sure. So first of all, itsumo osawa ni nattemasu. That's how far my Japanese goes. It's really an honor to be here. So when I work with startups, the first thing I always try to teach them that fundraising is a sales process. It's just like any sales process in the world, except it's perhaps the most difficult sales process. So what's happening in sales? If you want to be a good salesperson, sales is all about what we call a conversion rate. A conversion rate, right? If you meet 100 investors, let's see how many will invest in you. Is it going to be 0? Is it going to be 80? Probably somewhere between. And in order to maximize this conversion rate, there has to be a real methodology. The issue that I see with companies, founders, that they often don't take this seriously enough. What do? They, what I call spray and pray. Spray and pray. They come in, okay, I'll come in, somebody will write me a check. It's not going to happen. So what we do is that we build, when I work with my founders, we build an extremely rigorous methodology. So I actually share it with you. I have a couple of slides here. We jump over here. So fundraising, if you are reverse engineer it, what you want is money in the bank. That's what you want. In order to get money in the bank, you have a number of steps, right? So there will be a final meeting. There will be a final meeting with the investor. There will be blah, 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 second meeting, etc. You will have a first meeting with the investor. And then there are the leads. These are the leads that will get you meetings. Now, let me ask a question. What do you think? What do you think is the best way to get you a first meeting? Which one? Is it the email, the networking, the word of mouth, intros, pitches, social media? Which one would be the most efficient way to get a meeting? What do you think? I can see. Say it. So it's the word of mouth, right? The most important, the best way to get a meeting is warm introductions. If Digital Garage makes an introduction to me, I will take the meeting. Then there is email, networking, emails, etc. But there is a conversion rate, right? And then that's how it goes. So basically, just to give you statistics, I am an investor. We looked at our statistics. We look at 100 to 120 companies before we invest in one. You hear the number? I look at over 100 companies before I invest in one. Now, in fundraising, there is something we call a cognitive dissonance. What is a cognitive dissonance? That every founder thinks he is the one. Every founder thinks I am the one. But statistically, you are not. You are going to be the 99. So you need to create a pitch, a story that gives you gets my attention. Now, what is the issue is that when I look at 100 companies, I don't have 100 hours for each company. When I only look at maybe from the 100 companies, 3 to 5 companies I'm going to spend deep due diligence. So in order for you to get to the first meeting, how you get to the first meeting, you have to create an extremely exciting story. Something that gets my attention. And that is something that startup founders are terrible at. They don't know how to do it. When you start talking about the solution, the technology you built, I am out of the game. You don't get my attention. So the secret sauce of fundraising, step one, is that you have to create an extremely exciting story. And how much time do you think you have for that story? When I ask founders, they usually say they have 20, 30 minutes. No, you have 20, 30 seconds. 20, 30 seconds. So you have to tell me in 20, 30 seconds, why are you different than all the 99 or all the 1,499 people in this room? So the question is, do you have what it takes? That is the methodology that I always work extremely, very, very detailed and clearly with every founder, because then you move the spray and pray approach to a real success.
Wow, 20, 30 seconds. So in that story, what should founders actually put in the story? How can you make it really efficient?
Right, so that's a great question. So the first answer is that it depends. It depends because every founder has a different story, right? if you have, if when, so let's step back. When you don't need to build a story? If there is Sequoia or Andreessen Horowitz is leading your round, you don't need a story. I will invest, likely. If you just sold your last company to Google for $200 million, you get my attention. I will likely, you will get through the first level. If you are growing with 200% in the last 2 years, you just launched 2 years ago, and you are making $2 million US dollars in ARR, you get my attention. You don't need to build a story. Now, how many startups do have that? Very few. So if you don't have any of those, then we have to look at the company, what is that you have. Now that can be very different. I call this something called the validators. We need to go in and find your validators. We call it validators. What are the things that makes me, the investor, feel comfortable? So if you have an incredible background, talk to me about that. If you have revenues, you just signed a great deal with my friend here with Toyota, great. You can have, tell me that. If you just won the Digital Garage Online Lab, you got in, tell me that, right? What is that gets me my attention? And here is the thing, it's likely not going to be your technology. And this is key. Founders, all they want to talk about is the technology they build because that's their baby. I don't blame them. You want to talk about the technology because that's who you are. But that's not for the first meeting, not for the first interaction, not for the first 20 seconds. I always teach that fundraising is like a video game. It's a video game. You want to get to level 10. You can't start on level 1 saving the princess. You don't have the sword, you don't have the armor, so you have to go through a process. At level 9, you can tell me everything you have. You can go and save and kill the dragon, which is me, right? But at the beginning, you can't. So create something. The only thing you want to do is to get from level 1 to level 2. Level 1. So maybe I have actually, I don't know what slides I have, but let me see. Right. So generally speaking, what I like to include in your 20 seconds is, first of all, your genius. Because at the end of the day, we invest in you. We invest in teams. Everything in the world will change. The market, the economy, the competition, the regulation. One thing won't change, you. So I want to know who you are. I'm going into a marriage with you. We are going to be there for 8 to 10 years. I want to know who you are. So tell me who you are. So I want your genius. And then, what's your credibility? What are you qualified for? So start with that. The second part is your strategy. But again, forget the whole thing. Just pick 1 or 2 differentiators. If it's your problem that's exciting, talk about the problem. If it's your solution, it's your solution. If it's your traction, talk about traction. Usually, it's team, it's the 5 T's that gets me excited. Easy to remember, right? Team, traction, technology, total addressable market, if it's $1 trillion total addressable market, or the terms. We got good terms. So talk about, pick one thing. What is that? And then the third thing is your voice. It has to be confident, but humble and authentic. You have to hit that middle. Humility, one of the things that I learned when I spent a lot of time in Japan, Japanese founders are very humble, a little bit too humble. But humility, it doesn't mean that I am quiet. Humility means I know what I'm worth, and you are lucky to have me, but you don't do it in an arrogant way, right? That is. And so what you do is you build your validators, and that's how you build the story. And they put this together in 20, 30 seconds. I don't know what's the next slide, but basically anything that makes me comfortable, I mentioned to you. So what you want to do is this, right? Did you put your own money in it? If you start and telling me, hey, I put all my savings into this, you get my attention. If you tell me that you won the Digital Garage Award, you get my attention, right? Did you just sign the POC beta testing with Toyota? You got my attention, right? So anything that gives me validation, you want to come in. And then I think I have the next slide, which is the way you build your storyline. This is how you hack the system. So I give you a 20-second hacking the system, okay? The world is changing. Here are the problems. Here is our solution. The world changed. Try it out. Build your story and put this in it, right? The world is changing. Here are the problems. Here is our solution. The world changed. You can build a story in 10, 15 seconds that beautifully, it's a beautiful song, okay? So you can do that.
Can you go back to 2 slides before? 2 or 3 slides, yeah.
Which one?
Like 3 components.
Sorry?
The one which showed the 3 components.
This?
Yes, this one. This is already a lot of information to tell in 20 or 30 seconds. Do you have any preference? Do you have any like order of importance out of these 3 components?
Great, I love the question. Right. So again, think about the video game, okay? The first interaction that you have with an if you're at a networking event, look for these. Look, if you're a startup, you want to speak with everyone who has this color, right? These are the people who can invest in you. And here is the good news. You make them a favor. You think that you go up an investor and you speak with them, you bothering them. But no, if they are here, there is one reason they are here. They are desperate to find you. They are. We both need each other. I want to find my next Uber. I want my next Beyond Meat. I want my next lemonade. I want to find the next unicorn. And I'm not going to find it back sitting in my office. I'm here because I want to find the next company. So if you think you have what it takes, come up to me and pitch me. I need you as much as you need me. So there is no hierarchy. It's not like the investor. Obviously, there is a game because I have the money. So it's a game that you need to play. But when you come up to me and you give me a 2 minutes monologue on how you're going to save the world and how we're going to make the world a better place through this and this and this, I am out. My mind is somewhere else. So the first interaction you have, you know how much time you have? 7 seconds. 7 seconds. So, by the way, and I just read an article. Time Out magazine made an introduction, like when people go on the first date, how much time they need to know if they want to go with the person out for the second date. It's under 1 minute. In under 1 minute, they know. Okay? Now in startup world, it's much less. So the thing that you need is a 7 seconds thing. When you come up to me, we are human to human. Just get into a conversation. Don't pitch me. The only one thing you need to hear after the first interaction is that, wow, that's interesting, tell me more. The only thing you want to hear is tell me more. So first start with a 7-second pitch. Once you build that 7 seconds and you hear me tell me more, then you come to this. And it's a great question. So pick and choose what you want to put in. Again, I don't know. If you just sold your company, even if it's even if you lost money, on the transaction, but if you sold your company, you can tell me, hey Dennis, you know, I just sold my last company and I'm working on the next thing that's going to change the world. You're good. That was 5 seconds. You got my attention. Oh, what is that? What are you working on? Now you got 1 minute, right? So everything being equal, pick the things that gives me validation, because I know that if you come up to me, the statistics is against you. I'm not going to invest. You have to prove the opposite to me. So pick the one from the genius or your strategy, whether it's team, whether it's the traction, whether it's the technology, or whether it's likely not the technology, but the addressable market, something, and start with that.
Thank you for answering the question.
Please.
You talked a lot about what founders should do when pitching this 20 or 30 seconds, but is there any specific don'ts? Maybe you already talked about don't talk too much, but is there anything else?
Right, so I don't know what let me see if what's next slide here. Yeah, so let me see what's coming up, so I try to be as helpful as possible. Okay, good. Let's talk about the first meeting. Let's see that you got your first meeting. He introduced you to me, said, Dennis, take this first meeting, okay? I will say yes. I do whatever he tells me to do. I trust him, right? They have a track record. So you got my first meeting. So we set it up usually on a Zoom meeting, okay? Usually now Zoom, when I was an entrepreneur 10 years ago, we had 1 hour. We had 1 hour. Now the 1 hour is over. Now it's 30 minutes maximum. So when I work with my founders, what do they tell me? Oh, I have a 30 minutes meeting, so I'm going to prepare 25 minutes presentation. Wrong. If you have a 30 minutes meeting, you have 7 minutes presentation. 7. Let me show you how a meeting is going to happen. First, there's going to be issues with Zoom. 3 to 5 minutes issues, okay? Then there is going to be a 2 minutes icebreaker. Can somebody add this? Where are we now? 5 to 7 minutes, okay? You want to finish it up with a wrap-up, follow-up. Are we going to open up a data room? How is your process going? Okay, so you want to finish it up 3 minutes. Now here is the key thing. What I call the discussion and the Q&A is your most important part of the meeting. And I tell you why. Because you don't know what I am looking for. You have no idea. I wear many, many hats. I am investing my own money. When I invest my own money, I don't have time to do diligence. I go with the founder, I write a quick check, and I write it off. That's how I invest. I know that from 10 investments, 9 will go to 0, but the one I'm going to make 50x. That's how I invest my own money. But I'm also a chief revenue officer a chief growth officer for Hapiness Capital. Hapiness Capital is a VC fund, but all we care about is impact. We would not invest in anything that doesn't have a measurable impact, right? You don't know that yet. So you want to get into the discussion. Some investors care about the total addressable market. Some investors care about the team. Some investors care about the technology. You don't know. So don't speak about things which I don't care about, right? So do the math. Now we are at 18 minutes, right? So we have 12 minutes left. That's how you want to build your deck. This is your pitch. Your pitch is 10 minutes. 2 minutes introduction and 8 minutes deck. When I tell this to founders, they go crazy. Dennis, what do you mean? 8 minutes? You know, especially in Asia, Japan. Guys, when I work with Japanese founders, you know, I always tell them the first time said, PowerPoint is not a horizontal version of Word. Listen to this. PowerPoint is not a horizontal version of Word. I see sentences. How many of you have seen this? Yeah, you see this. It's sentences, sentences, sentences. I'm just like, I am dizzy. I'm dizzy in a meeting. And if you put those lines in front of me, you think I'm going to read or I'm going to listen? If I put this slide in front of you, did you see how I did it? I animate because I run the show. The same way when you present and you pitch, you run the show. What you need, it's an entertainment. When you raise money, it's a show. You want to say, Mr. Investor, fasten your seatbelt, have your popcorns ready, and relax. I'm going to give you an 8 minutes entertainment. And that's how you have to see it, right? And for that, it has to be perfect. And no more than 8 minutes. I can tell you by minute two, I made my decision. 90%. I made my decision. I am polite. I'm going to stay on the call. You know, have you heard about Y Combinator? YC is one of the best accelerator in the world after Digital Garage. But it's one of the best in the world. They have created Airbnb and Instacart. They created $600 billion. Paul Graham, the founder, well known, he tells you that how much time you have on the YC pitch? 10 minutes. 10 minutes. But Paul Graham will tell you by 7 minutes, we know. We don't want to be impolite. Founders think if I had all the time in the world, it's linear. If I have all the time in the world, everybody will invest with me. No, it's going to be like this and then like this. Hit the optimum 7 minutes and shut up. Sorry for my language. Just shut it up there and then get into the discussion. That is one of the biggest no's for founders when I work with them.
I cannot resonate more about discussion and Q&A is the most important part of the pitch. And maybe my piece of advice to startups out there is assume VCs, us, are really idiots and speak language that even my son, junior high school student, can understand. Yep. And also, sorry.
It's okay.
You also spoke at the very last part. You also spoke about data room. Could you elaborate a little bit about when should be the best timing to open data room, or is it really necessary to open data room for startups?
So I have a very different opinion on data room. Probably, again, it shocks most of my founders. So I think the obvious answer is, you know, after the first meeting, what the investor says, okay, can you open up a data room? Have you heard this before? Right? That's the typical way. I always tell the founder, do never share a data room after the first meeting.
Why is that?
And founders like, what are you talking about? So let me explain. What I want to add to it, never share a data room unless you get something in exchange. So when you finish up the meeting and the investor says, okay, can you please open up a data room? So you should say this. Okay, we have a data room, but Mr. Investor, what are you interested in? Oh, we want to look at the financials. Okay, so can I instead set up another call with my CFO next week, Tuesday, between 3 to 5, and my CFO will guide you through it? Oh, but we also want to look at the technology. Oh, so I have my CTO will go in deep, right? What you want is to keep the leader. You stay and run the show, not the investor run the show. Two things will happen. One, if the investor doesn't just want to win time, you don't want to share the data room anyway. Right? I'm speaking against myself, but we love to look at data room because we have all the information. We look at hundreds of data and we have it. If I can compare things, etc. But what you want to do, you don't want to share the data room unless the investor really wants to invest. Okay? Don't share the data room. Now, Second thing is that if the investor is interested, you don't want him to sit on the data and get back to you in 3 weeks, because you're just sitting and waiting. The first date is good. You don't want to wait for the second date 3 weeks. Like, what's happening, right? You want to get moving. So what are you interested in, Mr. Investor? Take the leader. And by the way, the investor will respect you. Oh, wow. This person is not desperate. This person knows how to lead and say, I'm not saying that every situation you can do that, but most situations, try. If the investor says, sorry, but we have a real process, the only way we do this is by data room sharing. Okay, you have nothing else to do, you do it. But keep the stafette, keep the leadership in your hand, and don't give it away. Always give away information only in exchange of the person that the investor is only in exchange of engagement, if that makes sense.
Yes. And you also made a good point that you don't want to wait investors for 3 weeks. So going back to a slide before, what would be the ideal timeline from the lead to first meeting to second meeting, second to final, and then wrapping up the deal? What would be the ideal timeline for this?
So if I tell you from my investor perspective, right? Most venture investment is probably one of the most difficult kind of asset classes, right? Because you need two things. You need to make very quick decisions and then very slow decisions. You need both. On the top of the funnel, we make very quick decisions to screen down the 100 companies to 5. But then when we get to the 5, we spend really a lot of in-depth time to get to the 1, right? So it's basically like this and then this, right? So the very beginning, right, it's actually the way to do it is that it's a reverse thinking. We investors, in order to be effective, at the top of the funnel, we don't look what to invest in, but we look at why not to invest. The way we screen is we're looking for red flags. Oh, that's why not out. That's why not out. That's it out. Again, if you're a smart founder, you know that. So what do? You don't ever talk about your red flags at the beginning. The more you speak, the more red flags I'm going to see. The less you speak, the less red flag I speak. So keep your red flags. The red flags will come up. But you want to put it in a way. So my job is to find the red flags. So it's a game, right? Again, it's a video game. I want to find the red flag. You want to hide the red flag. Obviously without lying. This is but in a way that you want to bring out all your validation, the good things at the beginning, right? And you want to hit the red flags. If you know, oh, Dennis is a sophisticated investor, so he will know what kind of red flag he's going to ask. So I'm going to preempt him, and I tell him why the red flag he's thinking about is actually not a red flag, right? If you think that, hey, you are in, I don't know, you are selling B2B healthcare medical devices. You know, one of my red flag is go to market. It's going to take a long, long time until you get your first client. So you're going to immediately say it, B2B healthcare market, oh, no way, this is good. I'm thinking this is going to be 10 years until you get your first revenues. And actually, we are just in a discussion with a hospital, just doing a POC with, oh, okay, okay, red flag, checkbox, right? It's a game, right? So you want to, so that's how but the beginning, funnel 100 to 5, we red flag very, very quick, bang, bang, bang. Then you get into meeting 2, meeting 3, now the in-depth, and this is when we start spending hundreds of hours to analyze your company. And then we look at everything, every single thing we will try to do. So venture capital, from an investor point of view, is think fast and then think slow. It's a combination of these two things. So that's if you understand that how we work, now you know how it's going to happen from your end as well.
Let's say a startup go into the 5 out of 100? And what exactly the thing you're looking into the founders or the startup? What exactly are you looking into the founder or the startup to make it from 5 to 1?
So, again, I'm going to give you the 80-20 because every sector is different. Every, if it's in pharma and biotech, we're not going to look at revenues because it's a binary game. We know the revenues will only come in year 7, right? If you know in generative AI, if you say that you're an AI company, we probably assume that you are not, right? Because it's probably 80% BS on AI, right? So what we are looking, so the world changed in the last 2 years. 2 years ago, the founders led the terms. We were, and the founders came to me, and it was FOMO. Today, we call it JOMO. You know what JOMO stands for? Joy of missing out, right? It was fear of missing, now joy. My assumption, if you come to pitch me, that hey, you're not going to get funded. In 6 months, you're going to be available at a 30% discount. You're running out of cash. You're going to be desperate. I'm going to get much better terms. That's my default position, right? So you have to create again, tell me why it's now. The train is leaving, investor. Create that inflection point. The train is leaving, and then you can get, then I'm interested. Then we go on from there. We look at the team. You have the ability. You have what it takes. You have the. Then we look at obviously path to profitability was not important for us 2-3 years ago. Today, path to profitability is up in the first 3. Okay, like go to market, product market fit. Again, depends on what kind of company or what stage you are in. But I think most people know what we are looking for. We look at basically everything, all the variables that is possible.
Got it. Thank you. Dennis, do you want to talk about fundraising masterclass now, or should we take questions first from audience? Which one would you like?
Sure. So I don't know. I have something. Well, this is another exercise that I have, but we keep this to the next time. Here, yeah. So first time I was asked so many times. So I'm launching a Japanese fundraising cohort. If you are interested, there is a QR code. So basically, what I built is a 4 to 6 weeks cohort for founders where you can come in, and in 4 weeks, we change your story and we create. So basically what we do is you got a tip of the iceberg in half an hour. Imagine when we do what we can do in 4 to 6 weeks. So you come in, we fix your strategy. We fix the strategy, we turn it into a story. The story turns into slides, and then we add the skills, and you're ready to go. So we've been doing it now globally to thousands of entrepreneurs, but what's interesting in Japan is a little bit different. The Japanese entrepreneurs, I've been working here for 7 years, so I learned that they need a very different content, so we tailor-made the content, and I'm very excited about it. This is going to be the first time ever I do it for Japanese. It's going to be in English, maybe with some Japanese translation, but it's going to be very much tailor-made for the Japanese founders.
To add something, you did this to some of our portfolio companies in Japan, and one of them actually successfully raised funds from foreign VC, 2 VCs. So I assure this approach is the right one, and startups out there, please consider applying for this one. And I think we're now opening up this for the Q&A from audience. So もしご質問とかある方いらっしゃれば、3つまで、取りたいと思います。デニスさんさっきおっしゃった通りですね。短めで、question only で3つまでお願いします。
So maybe we can collect 3 questions.
Yeah, we're going to collect 3 questions all, and then answer all at once.
May I get, thank you for the presentation, amazing content. May I get your take on initial interaction with a crypto founder trying to raise money? I know like you said, the stage has changed over the past 2 years, especially with AI and crypto and all that stuff. So I want to get your initial impression, I guess, or a general initial impression for crypto and what to say and guess what not to say. Thank you.
We are collecting questions first and answer to your question all at once.
Thank you. Sorry, Japanese. 日本の VC と海外の VC の違いをお聞きしたいです。
He would like to know the difference between Japanese and foreign VCs. あと一つもしあれば。I guess there are only two, so let's start from the crypto one.
So first of all, I will apologize, but one of the things I personally invested in different crypto, but I'm from all the companies that I work with, we never invested in anything, and we call it the ABC. Our first for ABC, which is called EBC, everything but crypto. So I wouldn't like to speak about representative, but quickly one thing that I think that I've seen both on crypto, AI, and blockchain, etc., is that the train left already. I think on that. I mean, it was couple of years ago. You only needed a couple of keywords, and you got people excited. Now, there's so much negative. There were so many negative associations with all three because there was so much BS, in that sector. So again, I would speak about something totally different before. Again, is it crypto or is it technology? Is it an enabling technology, right? So 4 years ago, it was an opener. You got the investors' attention. Today, you will not get that anymore, the same way.
Can I add
Japanese,
something?
sir? Yeah,
Can
please,
I add,
yeah.
So as Dennis mentioned, some VCs don't invest anything about blockchain or Web3. So take your time to study about the VCs you are pitching, and if they're not investing any, don't pitch. Don't waste your time.
Japanese, wow. So, great question. So I think I mean we have 2 minutes. I have a whole 2 hours on this. Okay, so let me see. So Japan, in the 1990s, if you looked at the 10 biggest companies in the world, you know how many were Japanese? The 10 largest companies in the world. 8. Okay. Today, in the first 50, there is only one, Toyota. Okay. So what's happening is that the world, obviously, almost everything moved to the U.S. The whole market cap, etc. So something, Japan is probably the world's leader, what I call intrapreneurship. But this type of entrepreneurship that really drives value today, and that innovation is something is certainly, I'm not saying missing, but it's lacking compared to U.S. or Israel or maybe a couple of other ecosystems, right? And I know the Japanese government, the Japanese VCs, everybody's trying to put a lot of effort changing that. But I think so foreign VCs know this, that although Japanese are very good in entrepreneurial things, but it's, I think you have six or seven unicorns. US has 650, Israel has 60 to 100, right? And it's a 10 times smaller country. So that entrepreneurial, innovative thinking is something that didn't come at surface. It's there, but somehow cannot come at surface. So I think that's going to change. It's going to change, but it's going to take years, right? So Japanese, when they are pitching, they again immediately go and spend the time usually on the problem and on the solution. And again, the same thing as microcosmically I told you what's happening in the global, it's even more out there for the Japanese companies, right? Because they bring extremely long slides, boring presentations. They are very humble. I always tell them, have a little bit of more spice. Don't be afraid. Again, the whole thing, and that's another point is, venture, when I had a very good job before I became an entrepreneur, made good money. When I left my job and became an entrepreneur, and I told my mother said that entrepreneur is only a synonym for unemployed, right? So, and I have a Jewish mother. I don't know if you know what that means. It's like a Japanese or a Chinese mother. Like, you know, you want to become a doctor, a banker, you know, or a lawyer. If you're not one of those, then, or a Nobel Prize winner. If you're not one of those, you're out, right? So, being an entrepreneur, the definition of an entrepreneur is that you're going to fail and fail and fail and fail and fail again before you get it right. Now, if after the first failure, your family, your ecosystem, your colleagues, your friends, everybody will look at you as a failure, you're not gonna be an entrepreneur. It doesn't make sense, right? So two things have to happen. You have to feel okay with it. I failed. And the ecosystem has to be taught education that failure is okay, right? And I think for example, here in the networking event, right? You have to kiss 100 frogs before you hit one. But if you're afraid of saying somebody no, you're not gonna go up. I'll go up. When I was a founder and I built this company, Pocket Guide, I went at the world which congress in Barcelona. I saw the head of Deutsche Telekom, and I had the boss. I went up and I put my app in front of him. I said, "Hey, look at this, pitch it." Everybody else, you're crazy. I got the business 6 months later. You have to have the balls to do it, right? So I think what I suggest for Japanese entrepreneurs is to be much more forward and don't be afraid of failing, because that's the definition of an entrepreneur. If you become an entrepreneur, you're going to fail by definition.
Thanks for the answer. Dennis, very quick. Could you go one slide back? Yes. すいません、宣伝になりますが、デジタルガレージで、2010年からやっているオープンネットワークラボというシードアクセラプログラム、今29期オープンしております。スタートアップの方、ジャパントラックとグローバルトラックという2つご準備しています。デニスさんもメンタリングでお手伝いしてくれますので、ご関心ある方ぜひご応募ください。よろしくお願いします。運営の方すいません、時間過ぎてしまいまして、これで終了とさせていただきます。Thank you so much for coming.